Hello, class. In order for us to understand the effects of the environment in physiological processes, we're going to interview Mr. Michel Siffre. Mr. Siffre, in 1962, you were only 23 years old. What made you decide to live underground in complete isolation for 63 days?
You have to understand, I was a geologist by training. My idea was to prepare a geological expedition, but after a while I decided to live without a watch, in the dark, without knowing the time.
So instead of studying caves, you ended up studying time?
Yes, I invented a simple scientific protocol. I put a team at the entrance of the cave. I decided I would call them when I woke up, when I ate, and just before I went to sleep. My team didn't have the right to call me, so that I wouldn't have any idea what time it was on the outside. My experiment showed that humans have a biological clock.
During your first day underground, how did you pass your time?
Well, mostly reading, writing, and doing research in the cave. Also, there were two tests I performed every time I called the surface. First, I took my pulse. Secondly, there was a psychological test. I had to count from 1 to 120 at the rate of 1 digit per second. With that test, we made a great discovery. It took me 5 minutes to count to 120. In other words, I psychologically experienced 5 real minutes as though they were 2.
In the absence of clocks, how did you feel time's passage?
There was a very large perturbation in my sense of time. I descended into the cave on July 16 and was planning to finish the experiment on September 14. When my surface team notified me that the day had finally arrived, I thought that it was only August 20. I believed I still had another month to spend in the cave.
What do you think caused this dramatic disconnect between psychological time and the clock?
That's a big question that I've been investigating for 40 years. I believe that when you are surrounded by night, your memory does not capture the time. You forget. After 1 or 2 days, you don't remember what you have done a day or two before.
Experiments like this can be carried out in a laboratory. Why have you always preferred to do them underground?
A laboratory is a fine place to do these experiments, but you must find people who are motivated.
What did you find?
After me, I put a man in a cave for 4 months, and then a woman for 3 months. In 1966, another man did 6 months underground, and then we did 2 other experiments lasting 4 months. All showed a change in the biological clock.
10 years after your first experiment, why did you decide to go back?
There were 2 reasons. First, I was interested in studying the effects of aging on psychological time. My plan was to do an experiment every 10 or 15 years to see if there had been any changes in how my brain perceives time. Secondly, all of the other people I had put underground caught a 48-hour sleep-wake cycle, except for me. I decided I would stay underground for 6 months to try to catch the 48-hour cycle.
Why do people fall into this 48-hour cycle?
I have no theory. The 48-hour cycle is a fact. I observed this phenomenon, but nobody understands what could be responsible for such a large desynchronization of the sleep-wake cycle.